Can any of you tell me how on earth digital ID cards are going to stop the boats? Because I am yet to hear a good argument from anybody. And we have just found out that Keir Starmer is about to announce, possibly as early as tomorrow, Friday, digital ID cards are going to be imposed on all of us. Not just illegal migrants who don't have a passport because they chucked it in the sea or didn't have papers in the country that they came from. No, it's going to be imposed on all of us to stop the boats. How on earth is this going to work? And look, I don't like to be a conspiracy theorist and say, oh, this is going to be used to control us. But do you remember back in the days of COVID, do you remember this thing, the NHS COVID pass? Do you remember how it was impossible to go anywhere without this QR code? You couldn't get in anywhere. It was near impossible to get yourself into some sort of pub or restaurant if you didn't have one of these. If you didn't have all the required vaccinations, you had to constantly take LFT COVID tests to get one of these QR codes to work. It was an absolute nightmare. And although getting a vaccination wasn't technically a legal requirement, they basically made it a de facto legal requirement by making it impossible for you to go anywhere without this app. And that is why I'm very concerned about what is coming next, which is possibly going to look something like this, an application on your phone where you've got your digital ID card. I have a lot of concerns about this. Let's take a look at some of the details being reported in the Telegraph as to what on earth is happening with this digital ID that none of us voted for, by the way, because this was not part of Labour's manifesto. It wasn't part of the manifesto. If this was something that was in the manifesto and the team I voted for didn't win, I can put my hands up a little bit and say, okay, fine, this is what the people wanted. But no, nobody voted for this. It wasn't on the manifesto. They have snuck this in. It's completely undemocratic. I think a policy, which is not just any policy, but a policy that has a huge impact on people's civil liberties, should at least be in a manifesto before you're going to impose it on all of us. So this is in the Telegraph. All adults, not just migrants, all adults will be issued with digital ID cards under plans by Keir Starmer to tackle illegal migration. The PM is expected to announce as early as Friday his backing in principle for a so-called Brit card designed to combat illegal migrants working in the black economy. I do not understand how this is going to stop illegal migrants from working in the black market. This is what they're saying. Anyone seeking to start a new job or rent a property would be required to present their digital ID, which would then be checked automatically against a central database of individuals entitled to work in the UK. At present, workers have to show one of a number of physical ID documents, but there are some concerns that some of these can be faked, and there is little to stop unscrupulous employers claiming they have made a check when they have not. Let me tell you what I think about this. I think that most people who are illegally employing migrants are knowingly doing so. I doubt that there are many car washes, for example, that are illegally employing migrants who are asking them for passports, and the migrants have had to go to the length to make or at least buy fake IDs. No, they know that they are doing it and they pay them cash in hand. Okay, and that will continue regardless of whether you have digital IDs or not. And the other place where they all work is not just car washes, Deliveroo. That's been in the news a lot lately. And that has nothing to do with whether they have a digital ID card or not. It's because somebody else who has verified their identity with their passport or some form of ID is allowing somebody else to use their account. Whether you sign up to that job with a digital ID or an actual passport doesn't stop you from allowing other people to use your Deliveroo account. That is where the problem is. We had the government, after a big expose by both the Express and the Sun on migrants working on these bikes, having their bikes all parked up all outside the hotels. They said, oh, we're going to clamp down, and they spoke to Deliveroo, Uber Eats, Just Eats, and they got them to promise that they'll sort it out, and they said there'll be big fines of $6,000 potentially per migrant that they find working illegally. Has that happened yet? No, it was all talk and no action. All that has happened is one migrant has been fined a whopping 26 quid for illegally working on a delivery bike. How about we start with that? We start with actually fining the delivery companies as you promised, Keir Starmer. before we go to the extreme of digital ID. How's that for an idea? But no. And how about you stop all the, like, super fancy freebies? We've just heard in The Sun that migrants are getting taxi services to doctor's appointments. They don't have to go on the bus, they don't have to go on the train like us plebs. They're being given taxi rides that cost up to 800 quid in a Mercedes E-Class, not even the cheapest option, to take them all the way across the country, 250 miles, to go get their knee checked up. Why don't we stop stuff like that before we try digital ID cards, huh? Just an idea. And this has been tried before, and people didn't like it. People thought that this was too much of an erosion of civil liberties. But Tony Blair, who's clearly the one pulling the strings in the background somewhere, wants to give it another go. They were tried in 2009, but the incoming Conservative-led coalition scrapped this on the basis of an erosion of civil liberties. People were not happy. Why are you trying it again? Why on earth? Well, apparently Yvette Cooper was kind of opposed to digital IDs, wasn't so sure about them, but Shabana Mahmood is lapping them up and loves the idea. She says, I want to make sure that we can clamp down on that. That's illegal working. I think that a system of digital ID can also help with illegal working enforcement of other laws as well. I do think that that has a role to play for dealing with our migration. My long-term personal political view has always been in favour of ID cards. And look, I know that there are other countries that do use them. France uses them, for example. But, let's just remind ourselves of that NHS COVID app and how that was massively used to control us. And we only had that in place for a very short amount of time. They didn't really have time to properly ramp up the restrictions on it. And I think that Bernie, who was investigated by the police for a tweet, went for a horrific experience, has said this: they won't need to arrest you for your speech. It won't be censored. Instead, it will come with red flags on your government-demanded digital ID. Your entry into your life will depend on how well you comply with Starmer's demands. I did tell you, and I don't like to be some sort of conspiracy theorist. I know that might sound a little bit like that, but I do think, why are they doing this? Because they are yet to make a good argument as to how this is going to stop illegal working. This doesn't stop people from using someone else's account on Deliveroo. It doesn't stop car washes from deciding they're going to pay people cash in hand and not check their documents. It doesn't matter whether you're coming with an ID card or a passport. And even if migrants having an ID card would stop illegal working, why are you imposing it on all of us? Why can't you just have migrants who have no passport having an ID card? People who have a passport don't need the ID card. But if you don't have a passport because you come here on a boat and you don't have one, then you have to have an app instead as an alternative to a passport. Why all of us? It just doesn't make sense unless they're trying to use it to control us in some way. Darren says Starmer is introducing digital ID, claiming it combats illegal migration. Migrants often discard IDs and lie about origin, so how does this move help? This inconveniences Brits and erodes liberties. Few believe Labour prioritises border control and won't buy this. Like, exactly, if someone has come on the run from a crime in another country and they turn up here, that's not going to appear on their digital ID, right? Because they just claim they've got a new name, a new age. They can say what country they come from, whatever country they want, right? They can just make up the facts about them to go on this digital ID, right? So I really just don't see what this achieves. And a lot of people are saying not to comply with this, and not just a few random idiots on Twitter. Like, fairly senior people are doing so as well. Gwaine Towler, who is on, he's just been elected onto the big board at the Reform Party, he said do not comply, and many others are doing as well. Montgomery Toms, who's been a big campaigner against digital IDs, says, let's be clear, this is not about convenience or security. Yes, on the convenience point, they're saying, but it will be so much easier for you to get jobs, for you to rent properties, for you to go about your daily life, so please have it. That's the way they're trying to sell it to us. But Montgomery says it's not about that. Digital ID is the foundation of a social credit system built to monitor, control, and create distance between the state and the people. We already saw the blueprint during lockdowns and jab mandates. Track and trace, vaccine passports, and censorship were all precursors to this next stage of control. Keir Starmer is simply carrying out Tony Blair's long-standing obsession with tagging and monitoring every citizen, acting as a mouthpiece for technocratic globalist institutions like the WEF, UN, and EU. Digital ID is not progress, it is mass control disguised as modernisation. Accept it and the England we know will disappear. Very strong words there, absolutely slamming Starmer for what he is about to introduce. The Labour conference is about to kick off. I believe that's kicking off on Sunday. He might announce it in his first speech on Sunday, or he might announce this as early as tomorrow. But we've got senior figures around Keir Starmer pretty much confirming to the press this is happening. This is going to be in the announcement, so we can pretty much 99% be sure this is going to happen, unless we cause so much of a storm in the next 24 hours that he decides actually this is really unpopular and I better ditch it. So make a noise about it best you can, because we might just manage to stop him. Anyway, I'm Chloe Dobbs. Thank you very much for watching this video. Make sure you hit subscribe down below. It massively helps us out. It's completely free and it means that you'll know when we're posting more content. Also, if you hit the notification bell, you will be notified when we are posting as well. See you next time.